Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. It is Thursday, right?
Thursday.
It's Thursday, February 13th. And the average price of a gallon of 2% milk in Wisconsin is $3.13. That's actually down 5 cents from yesterday. But the average price of a dozen large eggs here in the dairy states, $5.85, up 32 cents from yesterday. We have a jam-packed show coming your way today. Angela Lang from Bach, Black Leaders Organizing Communities, is going to be joining us after 10:33. She has a great column in the recombobulation area about DEI. It'll be an interesting chat. Also, in hour number 2, we will lighten things up. Sean Connolly is going to be here from the Birkebeiner, and we spoke with him last year, Greg Bach. I think it was a far different conversation that we had was when we talked to Sean last year, when they had barely any snow up there.
They had said they were on the verge of calling a cancellation, which they've done in the past, and they're not afraid to do it because they can't have a Birkebeiner without snow. But they managed to make it happen the last second. But yeah, as you said, Jane, I feel like this year is a far different year snow-wise.
It should be a good year for the Berkey. Yeah. We will talk to Sean Connolly after the 11 o'clock news. It's Thursday. That means Brittany Merlot will be here with weather and wine. Yeah, we got more snow coming tomorrow into Saturday. That's going to be on top of at least around the Milwaukee metro area. Milwaukee got 7.5 inches yesterday. Whitefish Bay at 7.2, Greendale 7.2, and then New Berlin getting away with just a little 5 inches there. But I was telling Calvin before we jumped on the air, I checked that 511wi.gov website. I don't know if it's particular to the city of Milwaukee that people can't drive, but there are like 10 accidents scattered around the city of Milwaukee right now. The ramp from eastbound 94 to go north on 45 north is shut down because of a crash. And like I said, there's almost 10 different accidents scattered around the Milwaukee area. I did run out to get a cup of coffee, and the roads are not great.
No.
Even the mains are not great. And granted, in the city of Milwaukee and county of Milwaukee, they have lots and lots of roadways they have to cover. But be patient and expect that things are not going to be clear as a bell as you're heading out and about today.
Just drive carefully, drive defensively, and drive slowly. You will get there.
You will. You can be a couple of minutes late. Yeah. It's better. I would think it would be better being a few minutes late than having, I don't know, $5,000 worth of car repairs you have to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
also, next hour, all things sports with the Journal Sentinel sports guru, J.R. Radcliffe. He'll be here at 11:33. I believe we're going to talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, Greg Bach.
The jet plane's leaving without him.
Oh, nice. Like that. And we'll wrap it up as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it's the Impossible edition. If that intrigues you, I encourage you to stick around. If you cannot stick around, by the way, that's not a problem. You can actually listen to This Shouldn't Be a Thing exclusively as a podcast, right, Greg?
Absolutely. You can go to civicmedia.us and go to click on the shows tab, which is at the top of the page, and you can find our shows, download them, and listen to them wherever you'd like. But also you can go to your favorite podcast distribution center of choice. You can type in Civic Media. You can type in our show name, but type in our show name, Matenaer On Air. When you find it, not only download an episode, subscribe to it. We come out twice a day.
Yes.
We have 10 episodes a week, separated by the hours. You can subscribe to it, and if you like what we're doing, you can send us a 5-star review, because that actually, subscriptions and the 5-star review really help move the podcast up the ladder for visibility. And only send us a 5-star if we've earned it.
Absolutely.
Anything below that, you're gonna send that. You're gonna get out your quill, piece of parchment. You're gonna write all your problems on parchment with your quill, and then you're gonna take that parchment and you're gonna give it to a carrier pigeon, and you're gonna send that carrier pigeon to Calvin Butenoff. Calvin Butenoff. He will take care of all comments, complaints, concerns, and questions.
Absolutely, and that is all under Calvin's purview, as it were.
Yes.
And, the other thing that really helps too, and I was thinking about this last night, word of mouth really helps. If you like the show, if you like the network, tell somebody, tell a friend.
Yeah. I listen to a podcast where he asks only to do one thing. He says, tell one person. If you're listening, tell one person you know to listen to the show, and then that one person tells another, so on and so forth. So yeah, word of mouth. You don't have to go putting us all over social media. You have to tell 20 people. Just tell. You're hanging out with someone having coffee, just tell one person you were listening.
Just to check it out.
Yeah.
Just to check it out. If they don't like it again, send it to Calvin. He'll take care of everything.
The name of the show is, if you don't like it, it's called The Joe Rogan Show.
Exactly. Good one, Greg. Yes. Good. Excellent point. I wanted to start off with this, though, and we have talked about this many, many, many times, both with Dr. Lyerly and Dr. Laura Hanks, about expanding Medicaid coverage for new mothers in Wisconsin. We are one of only, is it 3 states? Two. Oh, great.
Us
Look
in
at
Arkansas.
us. Look at us in Arkansas who have not done this. And once again, this is a bipartisan measure, which means that both Democrats and Republicans agree that this is something that we should do. This kind of proposal has gotten bipartisan support in previous sessions. It has never gotten a vote in the state assembly. Representative Patrick Snyder, a Republican from Weston, says, quote, the bill is not partisan in my mind. I'm here to help people, my constituents. And if we can't get something like this done, then I don't know what I'm doing in the legislature. And one wonders.
Dr. Lyerly also referred to as bicameral. This is supported by both the Assembly and the Senate. Like, this is a no-brainer. This is not healthcare coverage in this type of situation is actually cost savings. It's not cost spending. And I believe it was 2 days ago, someone had the question of like, how do I impeach Voss? Look at, I don't want you to impeach or even recall. I want you to look at the legislation that people vote on. Something like this. And you ask yourself, do I want this individual representing me in a representative democracy if they're not voting yes for something so popular, so simple, that 48 out of the 50 states in this country have passed it? And I'm pretty sure Arkansas is close to passing something themselves. So do we want to be the only ones?
The cheese that truly stands alone.
Oh, yes. It curdles and curdles, and they call the curdle Robin Voss.
Again, essentially, all this does is expand Medicaid coverage for the first year after pregnancy. Because as we've learned, again, talking to Dr. Lyerly and Dr. Hanks, a woman's body does not just go zing right after you deliver a baby. Mm-hmm. Your body takes time to recover. This can be months and months of recovery. We're also talking about potential postpartum depression and other things that may come up after a woman delivers. This, I'm quoting from WPR, this article, supporters from both parties say an expansion of Medicaid to support moms will improve maternal health outcomes. Republicans also hold up expanded health access as a way to make it easier for women to choose to carry a pregnancy to term. And this is my problem. We hear so much about the Republican Party. They love babies. They want babies. All American women should be having more babies. But then once it happens that the child is delivered and out into the world breathing air, they're kind of like, yeah, now you're on your own.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And once again, I'm going to throw the challenge out to anyone who agrees with why this shouldn't be a thing. Like, if you think that we shouldn't, as a state, be offering expanded Medicare coverage to new moms, why? I'd love to know. 855-752-4840. Is there science we're missing? Is there a report? Is there a financial report that we're not looking at? But so far, when both sides of the aisle in both houses of legislation in Wisconsin agree on this, and you have Republicans saying, I don't know why this isn't passing, it makes it real thin to me why you would think it doesn't need to be brought to a vote. And I'm talking directly now to Robin Voss, because I heard someone say this isn't conservative values. This is just cruel.
It's Robin Voss's money.
Yeah.
And he gets to decide where it goes. And he doesn't like this. Assembly Speaker Robin Voss, who controls the agenda in the Assembly, has previously said he does not support policies expanding benefits in general. Voss opposes Medicaid expansion Also, under the Affordable Care Act, no surprise, Voss did not respond to request for comments from WPR for this article. This is infuriating. We go back to the one person who stops progress in the state.
He I'm sorry, but he shouldn't have this much power. He shouldn't. This is not like Republicans in the legislature, Republicans in the assembly. Listen to us. Listen to your constituents. Listen to each other. Why do you have a man in charge who is doing things like that and making you look so? You have to go back to your districts and defend these things and go, well, I don't know. It's Robin Voss. That's not a good enough reason. You voted for him to be your leader.
Yes, again. Yeah. He's been in that spot for a real long time. Apparently likes it there too. It must be very, very cozy.
It's a very cushy job. All his chairs have his butt imprint, so it's just perfect. It just slides right in. I just want to make it real quick.
He's not there long enough to leave an imprint.
Fair point. It's overseas. Tony Zimmerman on the live stream said Kate Duffy, who heads up Motherhood for Good, mentioned that statement. It's not conservative, it's cruel. And that makes a big deal. That hit me when she said that, gave me goosebumps, because that's true. These aren't conservative values.
How do you feel about this?
How do you feel? Tell us, please. If you agree with it, make it make sense. If you don't, tell us, and then tell your legislators.
855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. We'll continue this conversation. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
She gets mad and she starts to cry. She takes a swing, man. She can't help. She don't mean no harm. She just don't know what else to do about it.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calviente on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. After the 10:30 news, Angela Lang will be joining us. She is from Black Leaders Organizing Communities. Got a great column in the recombobulation area that we are going to kick around about DEI. Angela Lang joining us after the 10:30 news. I hope you can stick around for that. Before the break, we were talking about this ongoing fight to expand Medicaid coverage for new mothers. This from the Wisconsin Examiner. Members of the Wisconsin Senate Health Committee expressed support yesterday for the bill to expand Medicaid coverage for postpartum mothers to 12 months. Right now, it's only 60 days. Senator Jesse James, a Republican from Thorpe, said this bill does not change the income threshold, so no new women will be qualifying for Medicaid. This just allows for those women who are already being covered to be covered for longer to help address potential health issues that could arise during the postpartum period. Yep, I know it might be a surprise to some men that there can be issues that happen even after you deliver a baby. I know it's shocking. It's a medical thing. It's kind of a medical body thing. It's got a lot of support. It is a bipartisan measure. And I did not realize this until I read this article. Governor Evers has been proposing covering mothers for a full year in every one of his budget proposals since 2019. And who rejected it? The Republican-led legislature led by Robin Vos.
It's the usual suspect. I mean, it's almost becoming, I don't want to say comical, but it's almost becoming just second hat. Like think about this for a moment. We are talking about, and I don't mean to repeat what you just said, but we are talking about expanding Medicaid to cover new moms for 1 year, and that's it. We're not looking to mandate socialist health care in the state. We're not looking to give anyone a break on healthcare access in the state. We're not asking for abortions in the third and after trimester. We are asking for this simple little thing. And apparently just this little much, just moving the dial just a tiny bit, that much, that 48 other states have done, that's too much for Robin Vos to handle. That's over the line. And he treats it, that's the other problem I have with it too, is when you ask him for these things, he treats it like you are the biggest anti-American scumbag. You're like, we're not going to do that. Of course we're not going to do that. What do you mean we're not going to do that? Everyone in your party wants to do this.
Isn't this, though, yet another example of Robin does what Robin wants? And it doesn't matter what constituents want. It doesn't matter what the vast majority of Wisconsinites want. We can take this back to common sense gun safety measures like red flag laws that the vast majority of Wisconsinites agree upon. The access to safe and legal abortions, the vast majority of Wisconsinites agree on that. Now, in the legislature, we have both sides, Republicans and Democrats, who agree on this measure. And again, Republican Party loves to claim how much they love babies and they love mothers and they love life. Yeah, it's all good until the child is born and breathing.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of on your own. It's like, what, you're 5? You don't have a job? What's wrong with you, you lazy sucker?
Pay your taxes. We got one of our favorites on the phone lines, Gene from Eau Claire. Gene, what's going on and who have you contacted today?
Well, I haven't contacted anybody today yet, but I've been paying attention to what's going on in the federal government. But boy, Wisconsin, we need more people like Tony Evers in there, folks, because my gosh, this is unbelievable. You know what? I just get so sick of these Republican men. I'm sorry. They happen to be the people with the R after the name. I'm an independent, but boy almighty, I never will vote for a Republican again in my life. But when they go after women and children and forced pregnancies, and then they don't want to even help a woman when she's having medical issues or to keep her healthy. What a bunch of scumbags. I'm sorry. This is my personal biased opinion. This is nuts. Ladies and gentlemen, if you love your kids, you love your wives, and you care about women, you better start voting these yahoos out. And then I got to say one more quick thing. God darn it, the board, the education, Department of Education is very, very important. People need to wake up. A lot of people get really upset about the Board of Education. The Board of Education works for the people. They work for the parents. They make sure your kids get fair education. Make sure that rules are followed to help kids. Oh, my God. Well, anyway, thank you. You guys have a good day.
You too, Gene.
You
Thanks
too,
for
Gene.
calling. Sit
Take
down.
a breath, Gene.
Get some water. I would say go outside, but it's like a degree outside. Don't do that. But thanks for calling, Gene. We always love hearing from you.
Take a little clue from Jean and just a little piece of her passion.
Yeah.
And take that and turn that into action. Whether, again, it's calling your lawmakers. I don't think Robin Voss calls, but you can always call and leave a message at his office. And if you're not sure what numbers you should be calling, go to myvotewi.gov, myvotewi.gov, and find out who represents you. Call your lawmakers and say, can you talk to Robin Voss and have him do something about something that both sides of the aisle agree upon? We know we know it's his money, but maybe he can be a little maybe we should just flatter him more, Greg. Maybe we're taking the wrong tack.
Robin, I love your popcorn.
Robin, I know you. Maybe we should try a flattery offensive.
I want to just harken back to last week. We talked to Randy Manor, and he said that if you're not calling your representatives don't know what you're thinking, and they may just think that you agree with them. So, and I'm challenging the Republicans listening to us who generally disagree. I think you agree with us on this one. This seems pretty simple. Call your legislators, all of you, and tell them that this is ridiculous. One man shouldn't have this much power, period, over the health and wealth of the people that he claims to represent in a quote unquote representative democracy.
It's Wisconsin and Arkansas.
Yeah.
Wisconsin and Arkansas. And Arkansas is actually closer to getting this done than we are here in the great dairy state. Think about that.
Yeah.
We have news coming up next, and then Angela Lang from Bach will be here. Join us and stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network. good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jay Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. Call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Next hour at the same time, Journal Sentinel sports guru J.R. Radcliffe will be joining us to talk all things Super Bowl, the Bucks, and I believe Aaron Rodgers will come up in this discussion. So stick around for that. Right now, though, very excited to be joined by our guest and occasional co-host. Angela Lang is here from Black Leaders Organizing Communities. Good morning, Angela. How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. You have an article in the recombobulation area that's really tremendous. And I'm just going to read the headline, Angela, before we dive into this. It says, Trump and Duffy were wrong to blame DEI. Is DEI really the answer? So after reading your article, what I really took away with was when a lot of these implementations of DEI programs started among companies, it didn't really address the core issues, did it?
No, not at all. And I think about the protests of 2020, right? It's 5 years ago now at this point, or almost 5 years, which is like wild to think about. But then
Wow.
I get the question all the time of, Angela, how much progress has there been? And the cynical side of me is just like, there hasn't been enough. But also at the same time, we can acknowledge, I think that there's a heightened awareness, but at the same time, we're still seeing police shootings and killings. We're still seeing increases in mass incarceration and how folks are criminalized just for who they are or who they love. And we see these things day in and day out. And, at one point I bought a t-shirt that said, queer liberation, not rainbow capitalism. And I think that also is kind of just understanding how capitalism is the way to make these things trendy and like the cool thing to do, but actually it lacks a lot of substance, because when you really get to the root causes of things, capitalism is at the core of a lot of these things and it intersects with all of these things. And so using capitalism as a way to try and kind of almost put a Band-Aid, I'm not even saying it's a Band-Aid, on these things, it makes it appealing, it helps their bottom line and their profit, but at the same time, what material conditions have changed for marginalized folks in this country?
It's essentially just saying nice things.
Yeah.
And right. And saying this is going to fix everything. When essentially, as you just said, it's barely putting a Band-Aid on a problem.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, because when I was writing the piece, I'm very proud of it. I normally don't feel confident when I send Dan things. I'm like, oh, he's never going to ask me to write again. But I was like, no, I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. But I also just want to make it clear, this is not to say I'm anti-DEI. But those of us that have been in DEI spaces or trainings have seen how lackluster they have been. And so I was like, is this a hot take? Are people going to, really understand it? And I think if we really want to be allies and really have like an honest critique, then we have to like do more than scratch the surface. We can say that visibility and people in positions and hiring, all of that is great. That's course correcting, quite frankly, for a lot of things. But, I've sat in DEI trainings in quote unquote progressive spaces that have been incredibly harmful, where, they say the things and then they still run programs that are problematic. And so some of these trainings seem to be, these corporations are just doing a checkbox so they can say the press release, they can say we did these things. There was a lot of folks that wanted to support Black organizing just so they could write the press release about it. And then now that it's no longer trending, I know organizations that are scrambling to find, donations and funds because people's attention span moved on to different things. And I think that's all a part of this broader conversation.
I think one of the things too is like, when the marches were happening, all these corporations, and I'm going to include sports too, MLB, NFL, I always likened it to when it's performative allyship, it's just they're going for style points so they can look good for their investors, so they can look good to the people. They can look good to the people they ask for money for, who they don't care about.
Yes.
And what we've seen in the past year, and if like I talked about this one day when I was filling in for Jane, was this gentleman, I think Robbie Starbuck, that's his real name, Robbie Starbuck.
Yep.
He posts these videos about how he spearheads these pressure campaigns on companies to get rid of their DEI programs, and he's done it. He claims this is TikTok. He claims. I mean, I could claim something on TikTok, but he claims that all these major multi-billion-dollar companies have done away with their DEI projects because of him. But my thought is, regardless of him, my guess is if they got rid of them, they never wanted them in the first place, because you look at a company like Costco who's like, go ahead, pry our DEI program out of our cold, dead hand. Whereas other companies are like, yeah, we'll get rid of them. It's fine. You know, you're right. They never wanted it in the first place. They were pressured in 2020 to do it. And now they're being given an out and they're crumbling. They're buckling. Yeah. Just like we saw the Super Bowl. They're like, we're not going to have end racism because the president's there. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I actually wrote that down. I was like, the end racism thing. I think that says a lot. I also think about too, because I want to make sure that we're talking about DEI. I think a lot of folks think of DEI, they think just like race, but there's all sorts of other things. And I think of the trans woman, Dylan Mulvaney, who got influencer, who got really big on TikTok for documenting her journey, day 45 of being a girl, and just like being very open about her transition. And she ended up getting a sponsorship partnership with Budweiser. And she mentioned later on, you know, there was a lot, as you can imagine, trolls and all those things that came out. But at the same time, you know, I felt like she went into hiding a little bit to protect herself. And she talked about how Budweiser didn't actually like come out and like stand 10 toes down and defend her. And that was also really harmful as well, too. So again, it's like you did this because you thought it was a trendy thing to do. And then now that it's controversial, which we can unpack that, and it's maybe potentially hitting your pockets, it's no longer morally right. The only or the one corporation, they're not a corporation, but the one like business that I see that is like consistent, that is like, no, we're doubling down, is Ben and Jerry's. Like, also, they were always my favorite ice cream. But like, you know, like they're great. But, you know, you think about that, like that's how businesses can operate. These are our values. Hard stop. If you want to boycott us, fine. We don't want your money. And the people that want to support us, those, you know, that's how we want to be supported. And I think people aren't thinking about any of those things. They're just doing it because it's trendy. And I do think that corporations and businesses just go with whatever way the wind blows.
I think you make a great point, Angela, about the role of capitalism in all of this. And I think about all the backlash that came out against Target a couple of years ago. Yeah. Because they had more queer kids clothing, or, you know, clothing with rainbows on it. And I've seen this also about Juneteenth Day. And a lot of pushback on companies all of a sudden, oh, now we're all celebrating Juneteenth and we're selling Juneteenth things. Yeah. It's not about being an ally. It's not about being a supporter. It's about, hey, we can make money off this.
Yeah. And visibility is great. You know, like Target should have all sorts of different, you know, creators and businesses that they're selling in there. And also at the same time, again, look at what's happening all across the country. Look at what's happening just in the last 3 weeks since the president has been taking a shredder to the Constitution. And I'm obsessed, so I'm going to bring it up. The Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show, right? It was a very clear, pointed, I think, analysis and critique of like some of the things and how Black people feel, and the American flag being created with Black bodies. Like, it was a very powerful message, and to do that in front of the president on a field where they took off end racism, right? I think I'm feeling kind of this tension in a good way, and I'm glad that people are talking about this. And, you know, I think boycotts can be very effective. And we're hearing that Target was, you know, being sued and their board was mad and all of these things. And so they're trying to walk it back. Again, they're walking it back because they're getting pressure, not because they inherently think it's the right thing to do.
I think one of the other things too, and I'm obsessed with the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. And people will say things like, it was the worst halftime show. Like 50 million views on the NFL YouTube page. I don't know if it's the worst. But the thing too, I mean, we're going back, of course, to DEI, watching videos on social media talking about how awful and evil and anti-American, all this stuff. And I know what they're talking about. It's all coded language. It's all dog whistles. When we're really DEI is about a lot of individuals, a lot of groups of people, whether you're talking about disabled folks, whether you're talking about queer folks, whether you're talking about Black folks, whether you're talking about, the one that gets me the most is that this helps military people.
Yeah.
This affects military people. And every time someone says, we don't need DEI, I'm like, well, then I want to come back with a real snotty statement. Then I guess you don't care about the vets, do you? Because DEI is a much bigger, and I think when you're talking about being in those spaces for training, that is sort of like I liken it to critical race theory in the sense of like, what's the version they were selling us 2 years ago on Fox News versus what actually critical race theory is. DEI is a much bigger, much more complex program that affects so many people and gives so many people opportunities.
Yeah.
And not based on who they are, but based on their qualifications, but also just giving them the opportunity. It's just all about opportunities.
I mean, I think about one of the first big fights like on campus I did many years ago was like around affirmative action. There was like an anti-affirmative action speaker coming to campus. And, that was like the first time I think that was like the thing. It was affirmative action. Then it was like woke. Then it's, critical race theory. Now it's DEI. And it's just like, just say the N word because that's what you want to say. Like, let's be real. Somebody said, I saw a tweet that was like a DEI halftime show. And it's like, it's like, first of all, if we're talking about DEI, those are like supportive programs and incentives and trainings and things like that. How like grammatically doesn't even apply to like halftime show. It's just like
I call you on your grammatical terribleness.
And I'm normally not a grammatical person because language and how people grew up and all of that. But like it's so fascinating because it's just these words have always just been code for what they've really wanted to say. And I do think that they just want to, use the N word, unfortunately. And this is the way that they can get around it.
If you're just joining us, Angela Lang is our guest. She is with Block Black Leaders Organizing Communities, has a great column right now in the recombobulation area. I highly encourage you to check it out about DEI. Briefly, before we go to the break, I have been seeing since the Super Bowl and that halftime show by Kendrick Lamar, all of a sudden, all of these white guys are like, and there's no white people out there? What is this? What is this reverse DEI now? What are you talking about?
Where's my halftime show with country music? It's like that was the thing is this past month, two Mondays ago, everyone was a Grammy expert. Everyone knew about the voting process, and everyone could tell you that Beyonce's Cowboy Carter was the worst album ever. Well, okay, I've got other stats for you. And now everyone is a Super Bowl halftime show expert on Monday, even though our friend Dr. Kristen Lyerly says that she was in the worst halftime show ever that they actually did a story on the news. So, Kendrick, you're fine. You're great. And you don't need me to tell you that. So,
I saw somebody that said, I listen to opera. This was a black man. He was like, I listen to opera. I listen to all sorts of other stuff. It just really wasn't for me. He was like, the message was great. It wasn't for me. I said, this is how you say it's not for you. All these other things. It's just also, I think it's funny because there are some MAGA folks that severely misinterpreted the message and were like, I think we're winning. Like, look, Kendrick is this rapper and he's coming out and he's making the American flag and it's so patriotic. And I'm like, oh, sweetheart, let me hold your hand when I say this with a napkin in between. That's not the mess. But there were some people that like legitimately thought like, they were like, yep, we won this. And now, Kendrick is waving the white flag. Like I was like, you missed the whole mark.
Not all of us passed reading comprehension. What is the point of this paragraph? That's a whole nother discussion.
I mean, Republicans keep gutting education, so it makes sense that they can't keep up.
We're going to continue our conversation with Angela Lang from Block. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. Join us at 855-752-4842. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mustard on the beat.
Hey, mustard on the beat. Debo, any rap. He a freak though, man down. Call like Amber Lambs. Tell him breathe, bro. Nella new to the cross.
Good morning, welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, the Calvinator on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Next hour at this time, we'll be wrapping up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it is the Impossible edition. It's a good one. You may want to stick around for that. Right now, though, we're joined by Angela Lang from Black Leaders Organizing Communities. She has a great article in the recombobulation area. I highly encourage you to subscribe about DEI and all the programs that start in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. We did have a couple of texts that I wanted to get to before we continue. Allison Cudahy says Minocqua Brewing and Penzies have always been faithful to their DEI programs. And another listener says, has DEI been too closely associated with affirmative action? Are they similar or not?
The way I always view affirmative action, I think they're in the same bucket. But I feel like affirmative action could be parts of like the DEI umbrella. So like I always think of that as like hiring, school admissions, things like that. Versus, I've attended DEI trainings or how making sure that people have a lens, for example, different organizations like mine, of how they're using a DEI lens in how they're talking to voters and things like that. So I do think that it's similar, but I think that is just like one aspect of it. And that's just how I view it. There may be people smarter than me that has a more, analytical breakdown, but that's how I view it at least.
I think Penzi and Minocqua are great examples of what you were saying earlier, Angela, of instead a group that's not pressured into doing something. Instead, This is what's in their heart. So therefore it comes out in their policies. And no one is going to change the minds of Kurt Bangstad of Minocqua or Penzi, period.
Also, I just want to say like a personal shout out to Penzies because like, one, we've seen it, when the RNC was here and like their branding and their messaging, and we love it. And like they really lean into it. There's no mistake of like where they stand. But then also what I think a lot of people don't know, because like I don't think they talk about it, but I tell people is that they also like support us. Like there are times that we'll get like a check in the mail and it's like we donated a portion of our proceeds to you all as an organization. And they've done that to us several times, right? And like I don't see a whole big press release about, I don't know how many other organizations they do that too, but they've been consistent over the years of just saying, hey, and sometimes they'll advertise it, it's Black History Month or it's Juneteenth, and so we're giving a portion of our sales to these organizations. So like it's more than just, hey, look, it's a cool thing. They're putting their money where their mouth is and investing it.
That's a really good point though, Angela, as far as that kind of support coming in when it's not necessarily sexy. It's not, they're not doing it to get under the umbrella. Like, aren't we good guys? They've always done this. They believe in this. Yeah. Something else I would think is very important that we need to mention that happened just as we were coming back on the air. Robert Kennedy Jr. has been confirmed as the Trump administration's Health and Human Services Secretary. The final vote, 52-48. The only Republican speaking out against it, Mitch McConnell, who had polio as a child and has spoken out previously about Kennedy's efforts to undermine the polio vaccine. And what really makes me crazy, Senator Bill Cassidy, who's a Republican, is a doctor. He's a doctor. And he was way against this until he wasn't. And here's his comment on Twitter this morning. We need to make America healthy again. And it's my expectation that Secretary Kennedy will get this done. As chair of the HELP committee, I look forward to working closely with Secretary Kennedy and the Trump administration to improve the health of all Americans. So
I'm sorry. I don't want to take any type of health advice or guidance from a man that like eats roadkill for fun or like finds a beached whale and straps it to his car and has all the windows open and the whale juice is hitting their kids on the way home. Like, I don't this is what? Sorry.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to take it one step further. I don't want to take health advice from a Kennedy. They've lived a life that's not like mine. They've lived a life of privilege and wealth that's not access to doctors. I want someone who is a qualified, decades into the game expert, not this shirtless guy.
Well, if you are not impressed by Robert Kennedy Jr., feel free to call Senator Ron Johnson
Oh yeah.
and let him know because Rojo voted for him.
Of
And if
course
you're
he
not
did.
sure how to get a hold of Ron Johnson, myvote.wi.gov. That will have his office's phone number. I doubt that he'll take your call, but hey, Jeannie always calls. It's worth a shot. If you call enough, you'll get through at one point or another. So give Rojo a call and tell him when polio is great again, we can thank him.
Wow. Yeah, deep sigh.
Yeah, heavy breath, cleansing breath.
I'm going to go replace my coffee, wink.
In the couple of minutes we have left, Angela, there's another article that we were hoping to get to, and I don't know that we're going to have time to get into this completely.
You'll have to come back.
You will have to come back.
Shucks.
Wisconsin Examiner has an article about how Wisconsin's investigations into police shootings protect officers. I don't know that that's going to be a big surprise to anyone.
Yeah, in today's news of water is wet. But I saw that. Sorry, I saw that yesterday. And it was a very heavy read. If people don't get a chance to, really dig into it, just Isaiah Holmes with the Wisconsin Examiner really outlines some of the challenges again of why DEI is not the answer. To me, these conversations go hand in hand.
We will have you back as soon as humanly possible. Angela Lang from Bach has been our guest. Thank you so much, Angela. Really appreciate it. News coming up next. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the vast, statewide, countrywide. If you have the app, you can take us global. Civic Media Radio Network.
Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Freaky, 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 not in God. Freaky, 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 freaky. God, hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Let me hear you say OV-ho. OV. Say OV-ho. OV. Step this way, step that way, then step this way, step that way. Are you my friend? Are we locked in? Then step.
Good morning, Sean. Can you hear me all right?
I can, Calvin. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Can't complain. Yeah, are you getting me through this mic? I'm going to tap it.
Yep, sounds good.
Great.
Awesome.
Sean,
I just want to make sure I wasn't clicking over to my AirPods.
When the interview is over, the segment's done. We'll be doing it for one segment. When you're done, just stick around for like a minute or so, let the audio visual upload, and then if you're looking at your screen, there's a little on the far right of the screen, there's a little tab that says recording with a little circle.
Yep.
If you click on that and you see your name, when your bar goes green, you can take off.
Love it. Perfect. Yeah. We use StreamYard for our live streams too. So I'm constantly telling people the same thing. I'm like, just let it upload. Just let it upload. Yeah, gotcha.
don't let people leave until it's green.
Exactly.
All right, man.
Right
Thanks
on.
a lot.
No worries.
good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. In about 15 minutes, Civic Media meteorologist Brittany Rouleau will join us for a little weather and wine. And we're going to talk about how much more snow we're going to get, which is good news for our next guest. Maybe not necessarily for everyone, but joining us right now from the wonderful American Birkebeiner is Sean Connolly. Good morning, Sean. Nice to see you. Nice to know you have snow. I think you're muted, Sean.
Oh, you're muted. Hold on one second, Sean. There we go. Oh.
There you go.
How's that? Is that better?
Much better.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. And yes, we're looking forward to a little more snow in the forecast. But as people who follow the Berkey are very keenly aware, we announced Monday that we are officially having a downtown Hayward Main Street finish, which is something we were not able to have last year. As we talked about last time I was on the show, it was a very unique year, our 50th anniversary. Low snow year, so we had to rely heavily on our snowmaking capabilities that we have up in Cable, Wisconsin at our property, Mount Telemark Village. So we did a 10-kilometer loop up there, which ended up being really, really cool because we had all these World Cup athletes that were coming over from Minneapolis because the World Cup was in Minneapolis last year, the weekend before the Berkey. So normally, like we have some really elite athlete skiers that come to the Berkey, which is super cool. But the World Cup, like the best of the best, they're generally somewhere else in the world. Right? Because the World Cup moves around every year. But last year, it just so happened to be in Minneapolis. So it was great that we were able to pull all those World Cup athletes over and people were able to stand in one spot and watch them go by in circles with their beer, which is pretty cool. So like they're able to like sit in our celebration zone, have a beer, watch people go in circles. This year, we're back out on the American Birkebeiner Trail, which our participants love. It's a historic trail. It's our 51st year of the American Birkebeiner. And that Cable to Hayward journey is just something that is just coveted. There's songs written about it. There's books written about it. I mean, it's something that people are really excited for. So we're really excited to be able to do that. We got just enough snow to do it.
I remember there's a Birkebeiner theme song, isn't there?
Oh, Berkey Fever. Yeah.
Berkey
written by Chris
Fever.
Henham. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Berkey Fever. Let me tell you. Yeah, I could play us out anyways, but then actually I had a little time over the weekend, so I wrote a new one. It's a parody of the Shabuski song. The whiskey, that song. Yeah, I made a Berkey version of it. So anyways, yes, there's people who love writing songs about it. It's super fun. You'll find it on Spotify soon if you're interested in looking it up. But yeah, it's so cool. There's just so many. There's the atmosphere is here. It's electric. It's we're a week out. A week from today, we'll start having all of our like Thursday Main Street. So it's a whole week of activities, right? It starts on Wednesday with our open track. And the open track is for people who want to do the Berkey, but maybe they don't want the craziness of all the thousands of people and going fast. They just want the experience of being out on the trail. So The open track is a great day for that. Then a week from today on Thursday, it's kind of our family day, really. It's the Barna Berkey, which is Barna is a kid's race. So Barna Berkey, we have our junior Berkey for the kids who are leveling up a little bit, still want to compete. Our Barkey Berkey, which is skijoring. So that's people skiing with a dog tied around their waist, skiing down the trail. It's awesome. So that's our Barkey Berkey. And then we have our Para Berkey, which is really cool. It's for adaptive skiers, so skiers of all abilities. And then also our giant ski, which is really exciting. Six people on one pair of skis, generally in costume, generally just trying to stay alive. But we've had some pretty highly contested contestants and teams in the past for that race. So we're looking forward to that one too. So Thursday is kind of our big fun day. Friday is the half Berkey race. We call it the Quartalopit. So that's if you want to ski the 30K instead of the 50K. And then on Saturday is the main event. And it's our 51st American Birkebeiner.
Sean, just be honest. How much drinking is involved with coming up with something like the Barkey Bernie? I mean, come on. You guys are sitting tipping back at few and going, it would be really great. Have him tie a dog around his waist.
What's crazy? I mean, it's a big sport. Skijoring's really big. If you're into it, like it's kind of wild. It's a niche, but it is a niche that people are all into for sure. It's kind of wild. But that's not to say there aren't shot skis lining the course of the Berkey. There are definitely people.
That was like my brain went to is like, I love you five guys. I'd had skis with you. We could do this. We should do this right now. And then open a bar. It's just a lot of planning at the Birkebeiner.
I'd highly suggest Googling the Nimrod's Giant Ski Tee. So the Nimrods are a group of guys up here that they are the giant ski guys. They've won it numerous years in a row, and they take it a little too seriously. So seriously that they've done 2 documentaries on themselves. So if you want a behind the scenes look, and it's super fun. So yeah, the Nimrod's Giant Ski Team. They have their trailers out on YouTube, and yeah, it was super fun to see their second release last year. So yeah, we're in the thick of Berkey season now, and like I said, just enough snow. So for people who are skiers, generally they're used to our pristine snow that we have up here. Feet of snow that with a really nice base. We don't have that this year. Our first half of the race is going to be it's going to have like a nice foot or so of base of snow. So it's going to be nice and pristine. The last 10 kilometers is going to be a little bit, but there'll be some grass poking through here and there. There'll be some leaves. And, we had a big talk about like, what is the race experience versus the event experience. And I think people want that event experience of going down Main Street. So we got enough snow to cover Main Street. So that will start, this Monday, we'll start building a bridge that goes over the highway and goes down into Main Street. Then we'll start piling it up with snow on Tuesday. And then we're off to the races on Wednesday.
You must have an army of volunteers to pull this off.
We're so fortunate. Very, very fortunate. Literally, we'll have 2,000 volunteers over this weekend to be able to make this happen. It's wild. And people come out of the woodwork. People come from all over the world and come from different countries to come ski this race. They'll ski their race on Saturday, but they'll show up on Wednesday and be like, how can I help? Like, just show me where I can I hand out some water somewhere? Can I shovel some snow somewhere? What can we do? And so that's we're so fortunate to make that happen. And if anybody out there wants to come on up and experience it, I highly suggest coming on up. And volunteering is a great way to just sort of get involved and really feel like you're part of the community up here. You get a great hat, and we're going to feed you. So Berkey.com/volunteer. all of our volunteer listing slots are up there. So it's worth coming to check out.
We'll make sure and include that link in our show notes.
Absolutely. Are there Berkey friends? Like people like they see each other every year at the Birkebeiner. Like they know that it's like, oh, I'm gonna see Alan next year. And we're gonna have a great time. We're gonna have fun. And that's just like that's their one time of the year they get to see each other.
That's it. I mean, that's so for so many people, this is their tradition. They come up here. Yeah. This is their time to see their Berkey family. Gosh, even last year, I was skiing 2 years ago before I took this job. So once we work in the job, we're a little too busy to do it, unfortunately. Oh. I know, but hey, it gives me more joy, and you get more reward at bringing it to other people than doing it yourself. But a couple of years I'm skiing, and I'm like looking next to me, and it was a guy I played like middle school football with and haven't seen in like 10 years. I'm like, Tyler? And he's like, how's it going, man? And like, and that's just kind of how it goes. You run into people on the trail. We had an amazing story in our Birch Cast. We have a podcast called the Birch Cast. So everything around here has something to do with birch. And there's a big history behind that. The whole Birkebeiner is actually brought, it's storied after a Norwegian prince that was rescued in 1206. His name is Prince Håkon, and he was skied to safety during a civil war in Norway, and he went on to be a great king. So this Birkebeiner race isn't just in America. This is the American Birkebeiner. There's Birkebeiners all over the world that reenact this. Some races actually make you carry a baby weight sized backpack or like baby, and it's kind of wild. So anyways, the warriors who saved that prince had birch. Birch was their armor. They used birch bark as armor. So you'll see birch. So our podcast is called the Birch Cast. If you ski 20 Berkeys, you're called a birch legger. So you'll hear that phrase a lot. But anyways, in our podcast for the birch leggings, we talked with a skier who he had never skied a Berkey before, and he was probably in his teens. And a gentleman skied by him and said, "How you doing, Ben?" And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know you. He's like, "I skied with your grandpa. I've skied this race with your grandpa for like 20 years. And his grandpa had just passed." Like, yeah. And so like, it's just like family tradition. It's really cool to see.
Well, and I love when you talked about there are events for young kids who are getting into this too. And obviously this is kind of where this tradition starts. We've got about 3.5 minutes left, Sean. Let's talk lodging. If someone is listening and they're like, yep, I'd really like to go help shovel. I'd really like to go help build that snow bridge. Is it still possible to find a place to stay around Hayward?
It is. It's tight. Definitely don't. I mean, the later in the year, you look to to come up here, the more kind of further out from town you'll be. But there's still plenty. There's Airbnbs everywhere, so people are always looking for opportunities up here. It's a big economic boom. So yes, the best way to go is go to the Hayward Chamber. They have a huge list. People call them, and that's probably the best way to make sure that you can find something that's open. So the Hayward Chamber has a great list of lodging, of Airbnbs, of people that say like, "Hey, my place is available." They're the best. They're the best connection for that.
What a great way to meet people and make friends. We talk about this on the show all the time about this horrible loneliness epidemic that seems to be across the country. This is a good way to get out of that. This is a good way to go get involved in something, even if you don't ski, even if that's not your thing. Go stay at somebody's B&B. Go help out. Go make some friends. Maybe this will become your yearly pilgrimage. I think that's fantastic.
It is cool. And I know like snow starts falling and people are like, oh man, another bit of snow. But I think that's what's kind of cool about the cross country ski community is they love that. Like this is gold to us. Like it's coming down and like we love it. So I think that's what's really it's just a great community of people who wanna be together and enjoy the winter.
I think since last year, since we talked to you and we learned about so many businesses that really struggled because of the lack of snow. Every time, I don't personally like snow, but every time I think of the snow, I think of you guys. I think of the organizations and the businesses up north who need the snow. So I'm like, you know what? It's a little inconvenient for me, but it does a world of good for Sean, for the Berkey, and for all those folks up north.
Well, and think about the economic impact in that area, which is a very rural area. Wisconsin's got to be enormous.
100%. And actually just lately, I mean, over the past, since last weekend, I'm hearing a lot more snowmobile engines just right outside my window. So even if like, you don't want to get out there and ski or hike or snowshoe, I mean, just snowmobiling, ice fishing, all those things are such an impact on the community here. And so the restaurants, the lodging, the whole community really thrives on that. So last year was really tough for people. And that's why we really pushed it to make sure we had a race so that way we could help support the community. But now this year, Mother Nature is helping us out and everyone's feeling a lot better this year.
Glad to hear it. Hope you have a fantastic Birkebeiner. Sean Connolly is the marketing director for the American Berkey. Can I get a American Birkebeiner t-shirt? I'll go to the merch website and look for one of those because
you'll find one for sure.
I need one of those. We have Brittany Merlot coming up next with Little Weather and Wine. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. After 11:30 news, J.R. Radcliffe will be joining us to talk all things sports. We will wrap up the show around 11:51 as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it is the Impossible edition. It's a good one. You may want to stick around for that. She joins us every Thursday at this time. Civic Media meteorologist Brittany Merlot for a little weather and wine. Sure, you're all smiles this morning because we got snow.
Well, you got the snow. I didn't get anything here in Wausau besides
There was
a
nothing in
trace.
Wausau.
No, this was definitely a southeast storm. I mean, West Allis picking up 8.5 inches, Milwaukee 7.5. I mean, even Sister Bay, Door County picked up 6 inches. So this was really, really driven by lake enhancement, those winds coming off the lake, that snow totals really increasing by Lake Michigan, and the rest of us, we didn't get much.
There was a pretty solid line right across the state, wasn't there? It went up to Green Bay, and then it seemed like everything north of Green Bay was pretty fine, except again, if you were along the lake.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I think Janesville picked up 6 inches and Edgerton, but that was about it for the max snowfall totals from that system. But we needed it. We were 4 storms behind, so now we're 3. And this weekend will make up for that.
Well, and it's really important for folks to realize, I know it's February. It's like, what do you mean we need snow? It's drought issues.
Yes.
We need
Yep.
an accumulation of snow over the winter so that when it melts in spring, the ground is wet and it makes it easier for our farmers to grow things.
Yes, we do. And we also need the cold, too. I know today is a little bit brutal. Those wind chills are making us all feel sub-zero, but even the cranberry farmers, they need that. They need the ice. They need it frozen for those marshes so that the cranberries, our #1 producer out of the state, can actually be well and good. So right now, we're looking good statewide for farmers and precipitation and all of that. With this forecast coming up, we should be good to go for spring.
So I can go back to hating snow without feeling guilty.
After this weekend, yes.
Okay, fine.
Couple more days, Greg.
On Sunday, I get to grumble. I'm going to sit there in my robe with a cup of coffee going, snow always plowing me in.
Because our
We're
next
all gonna
round
be
is
doing
going to,
that.
the next round is going to start tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes. So this weekend is very, very complicated in terms of forecasting. And I'm just going to say a blanket statement. The entire state of Wisconsin should probably stay in this weekend because it is going to be wild and snowy all weekend long. Here's what's happening. I'm going to try my best to break it down for you. These models have been all over the place and things keep changing. Some of them are blowing them out with crazy snow totals, and I don't really think that's going to happen. So what we're looking at is snow starting tomorrow, Valentine's Day, the day we all want to go out and go on dates and do special things. I strongly suggest not to, because we are looking at snow starting in the western part of the state around 3 o'clock, spreading statewide, reaching eastern areas by 7 o'clock, and it's going to hit hard and fast. Quick accumulations, and we're looking at 4 to 7 inches into places of central Wisconsin, and a good 3 to 5 inches far, far south and far, far north in the state. This is just tomorrow afternoon into the evening. We still have snow scattering through on Saturday. We could see another 1 to 3 inches into central parts of the state, and then another 2 to 5 inches into southeast parts of the state, where some lake enhancement could really filter in there as those winds shift off the lake. The system nears us. Some places could get 6 inches. And then Sunday, a cold front comes through, and for a long time it wasn't doing anything, but now it wants to spark up more snow where we could get another inch or 2 on Sunday. So this would put weekend snow totals nearing a foot in some spots, and all of us well over a half of a foot. I know. Go.
Greg's biting his lip.
See, my only thing is that I do not have a choice. I have to go out on Friday night and Saturday night, so I do not like driving in this weather. If someone could just, come pick me up in a helicopter or a flying carpet or teleportation, that'd be great. I just the notion of driving in this weather is always, it makes me nervous.
Absolutely. And it should. It's going to be a lighter, fluffier type of snow at first. Temperatures tomorrow will get into those mid to upper 20s, so it will turn a little wetter and heavier as it continues on. And then the cold Sunday, really, really light snow. So those road conditions are going to be poor. If you have to travel like Greg does, get that emergency weather kit in your car right now. Cat litter.
Okay. Yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, you mentioned that yesterday before the storm. Can you just go over briefly, or is there an article we can read on civicmedia.us that talks about a winter weather emergency kit for your car?
Yes, so we definitely have that on our website, but just to reiterate it, what I have and I always have in my car is cat litter or sand because you want that for traction. If you go off the road and you're stuck in a snowbank, you're going to want those things. Plus some extra gloves, hat, hand warmers. Fill up your gas tank too because these are colder temperatures. If you do get into an accident or spin off the road, you want that heat, don't you? So
Yeah.
you need the gas until someone comes and gets you. Road crews are going to be slammed this weekend between accidents and getting people off the side of the road and stuff like that. So you're going to want everything you can in your car, extra chargers, maybe even a battery bank too, in case your car isn't running. If you have an electrical car, some of those don't like the cold weather and get fussy. Those are the essentials. And a shovel. They even sell collapsible, foldable shovels. So if you have a small trunk or car, they'll fit nicely.
Might be a good night tomorrow night to stay home and have a nice romantic dinner if you were planning on going out for Valentine's Day. And just keep up on the forecast. And don't forget about that great website, 511wi.gov. And that will show you every accident all across the state of Wisconsin, places to avoid, roads to avoid. And it's going to stay cold, Brittany. So I'm going to go get out the leaf blower after the show is over and see if I can blow off what's left of the snow that we didn't get last night. So
yes, take a video. I want to see
should
this.
have done that.
It works.
Yay.
Yeah.
I know. Or a broom if you don't have
I
one.
wish you would have told me this like 3 weeks ago before I dropped a nice bit of coin on a snowblower.
You might be happy that you have that this weekend. You might be happy that you have that this weekend.
Which reminds me, shovel and shifts. This is snow, a lot of snow. If you're getting hot and sweaty, it is freezing outside, so something is wrong. Pay attention to your body. Heart attacks can happen.
Listen to Brittany Merlot, Weather and Wine. She joins us every Thursday at this time. Thank you so much, Brittany. Really appreciate it. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Hey, JR. You sound okay now. I'm not hearing any echoes or feedback.
Okay.
No echo. Go.
It wasn't my end, but the board somehow causes problems, usually on the other end coming to me. So I don't know why it is that way. I know I used to do some of these interviews and Jane would hear echo, so I never heard that, but I don't know. I'm gonna stop using this room at some point.
Well,
so.
you sound great from this end. So
Okay, cool. Then we should
Calvin,
be
who was that? Who was the artist you just had playing there?
That was the Burning Brides.
I liked it. Very nice. Cool. All right, we come back in a little less than 4 minutes, Chair.
All right, sounds good.
morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jake Matenaer, Greg Bach, and the Board Lord coming to you from the studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll wrap up the show with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today, it's the Impossible edition. If you ever have a thing you think should not be, send it into Greg and me at Jane Says, JaneSays, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. He joins us every other Thursday to talk all things sports from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. The sports guru, J.R. Radcliffe, is here. Good morning, J.R. Good to see you. I'm glad you're in one piece.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a little bit of a head fender bender this morning. I have never been in an accident of any kind. Unless you count me accidentally tapping a car in my high school parking lot, just barely grazed it, looked at it. There was no damage on either vehicle. That is the most accident I've ever been in. Now, I've actually spun out on the highway during bad weather, like literally faced the wrong way. And still have not contacted anything until today when I tried to brake at a stop sign. I was unsuccessful in doing so. Hit a whole bunch of snow and there was junk all over my tires, and essentially T-boned another driver. But fortunately, their car's good. Mine is not great. It's not really that bad, but it's all bumper damage. But it'll probably be a couple grand when it's all said and done. So I'm a little bummed this morning. I was definitely in a really rough mood. The guy I hit could not have been nicer. He was really, really great. So the experience, all things considered, could have been so much worse. And his car's fine. So that's obviously the biggest part. So we're doing okay. We're doing okay.
Well, we're glad you're okay. And
Yes.
It's just a good reminder, JR, that even though they've plowed, the roads are not in ideal condition. There's all kinds of spots. Sometimes when they take the plows and they go through an intersection, and then there's a little wall of snow that you have to get through.
That's exactly what happened to me. This was 4 blocks from my house. And I mean, there's no other way to plow. Like, you've got to do it that way. But it does create those hazardous conditions. And I was coming up driving like I normally would on my side street in terms of speed, which isn't outrageous by any means, but it wasn't cautious enough. I needed to come up to that stop sign just crawling because I knew there was snow there. And then when I, had to finally get on the brake, it was already too late. I was sliding on through. It was tough, but
that's
again,
happened.
I'm totally fine. It's fine.
I'm glad. But there's that moment where you're hitting the brakes and you start sliding, and that's when all the expletives come pouring out of my mouth. I don't know what it's like for you, but it's like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah.
I was swearing so much loudly that I'm sure the guy thought I was mad at him. Like, looking back, I was like, man, I shouldn't have been doing that because I knew it was on me. I mean, I'm the one who slid through the stop sign. I'm the one who couldn't come to a complete stop, whether or not, literally whether or not, that was on me. So I was furious because my license plate got obliterated, just completely like bent up and knocked off my machine and like broken. And the rest of my car is really quite okay. Like, there's a crack. It's going to need some repair, but it's amazing to me how these bumpers work, like how they're able to absorb, how there was no damage on the other car. I have no idea how the physics of my license plate getting mangled could not hurt the other vehicle. I have no idea how that happened.
Well, we're glad you're okay.
Yeah, we're
And again, keep this as a reminder to be careful. And it's certainly through the weekend. We have more snow coming. And we just talked to Brittany Merlot. It sounds like it's going to be every day this weekend.
Yeah,
so just keep that in mind to use some extra caution, watch your speeds, and watch those brakes. Which depressing area would you like to start first, JR, when we're talking about Wisconsin sports?
Yeah, well, it's not altogether depressive. The Bucks are heading into the All-Star break, and the Brewers are starting spring training. So you can be optimistic about either one of these teams, or pessimistic if you choose. I think we should start with the Bucks because they're in the middle of their season. We'll talk about Greg Bach's Milwaukee Brewers in just a moment. But the Bucks did get a win last night. It was, I think, kind of an impressive win. It was without both Damian Lillard and Giannis. They beat Minnesota. That was kind of a stolen victory. They're still hovering just above 500. Giannis needs to get healthy. It sounds like that'll probably, well, at least to their assessment, happen shortly after the All-Star break. But there was a lot of thought that he would be healthy last year at some point in the playoffs, and that didn't even come close to materializing. So we'll see. That's definitely a reason to be concerned. And the Bucks in general are a reason to be concerned. They've just made some trades that I think will make them better. Obviously, losing Chris Middleton is a huge blow, both emotionally and as a player. He's still a really good player, even though he himself is coming off of some injury issues that have limited what he can do. in terms of playing time, and I suppose a little bit on the floor, but he was still very good. So the jury is out, I think, on how good those trades have made this team, because Giannis has now not been healthy since those players joined the team. It does remain to be seen. They are building strictly around Giannis and Dame, and everybody else is just going to be a complementary piece to make that engine work. You can't have that work if, of course, the two guys at the centerpiece are not actually healthy to play. So they are going to do everything they can to avoid what happened last year when both guys were not healthy in the postseason. I still think best case scenario, this is a team that's going to win a first round playoff series and probably not much else. They're just not a championship caliber team outside of maybe a fringe championship caliber team. So there is reason to be down on this team because they're not what they had traditionally been. They aren't blowing anybody out. They're losing big time to the real challengers and barely skating by, or sometimes losing to lesser teams. So it has not been a glorious season. There is still hope in there, but it's going to require everything to kind of go right. So it's been kind of a downer year so far for the Bucks.
Who's really the standout right now in the NBA?
Well, there's a few. I mean, Oklahoma City is very good. Cleveland is very good. These are teams that have kind of the individual talent and on paper look like among the best teams in the NBA, but they haven't proven it in the postseason before. Oklahoma City last year was really good. Cleveland is the top team in the East right now. They're 5.5 games ahead of the Celtics, which is crazy. I didn't even realize the number had gotten that big. Boston is, I think, reigning champ, just trounced everyone in the playoffs last year. All those guys back. I still think Boston is seen as the front runner, but Cleveland on paper is 44-10. They're unbelievable, but they haven't done it in the postseason. They haven't shown with this group that they can get that far. So that remains to be seen. The Thunder are running away with the Western Conference. They've got an MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's probably going to win MVP this season over Nikola Jokic, over Giannis. I'm not positive of that, but they are also on another level relative to the Western Conference. So I think it'd be cool to see Oklahoma City against Cleveland. If the Bucks can't get in that equation, that's a pretty cool small market championship caliber matchup between those two teams. But I don't know if I believe that both of those teams are going to work all the way through the postseason. I think you're going to see a lot of teams that were not taking the regular season for granted, but just not putting their best foot forward yet, because the best was yet to come. Boston among them. That's what you're going to have to watch out for.
If you're just joining us, J.R. Radcliffe is our guest, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel sports guru, to talk all things sports. Let's move on to the Brewers. Greg, how are you feeling about this as we're getting ready to pitchers and catchers report pretty soon?
They've reported.
They reported.
They're there. I'm going to borrow a phrase from sitting Assembly member Francesca Hong and say that I am nauseously optimistic. I'm glad that we have Pat Murphy still here. I'm glad we still, we've got the bones of a good team in there, but we lost some players last season, and I want to see what they're going to do in spring training. I don't want to say I'm not going to expect much this year, because last season we said that we're not sure we're going to go, because this doesn't seem. Jackson Churio could not carry the team, and he was too young and too inexperienced to do anything. But now he's got a year under his belt. I think we're gonna be a 500 team this year. I think we're gonna play decent. I don't think it's gonna be bad, but I just also don't see us going much further than that. And frankly, the past few seasons have been wild card and out. And for me, I know that qualifies us for the postseason. I buy the T-shirts every year. We get all excited, but as soon as we're popping champagne bottles, we're also then talking about how that team is probably going to annihilate us in the playoffs. So I want the Brewers to have a solid year or two of building a good team and going from there. And I think Pat Murphy at the helm is really great, because it brings a sense of family and unity to that team that it needs, because it's not a big market team. You don't have the big star. You have to rely on your players to work together and to really enjoy being around each other. And I think that's what Pat Murphy brings.
I think that's a reasonable take. It is notable. If this team is a 500 team, that's quite a bit of a step back from where they've been, even if they are just at 500. They won 93 games last year, when I thought coming into the year they were a 500 team then. They grossly outperformed what I expected of them last year. And that's reason to believe, again, a lot of those same players are back. They've subtracted. They don't have Willy Adames. They don't have Devin Williams. They traded him to get a key piece in Nestor Cortez in the starting rotation. But again, I would look at this team and be like, they're okay. 85,
Yeah.
86 wins, maybe if everything breaks right. And maybe that would be a playoff contending team. It would not have been last year. 89 wins was what you needed to get in last year. So I don't look at it favorably, but this team has outperformed before multiple times. I keep saying this. Each of the last 2 seasons, they won more games than the year before, and their payroll went down. So it isn't correlated strictly to are they spending more money and bringing more guys in. That said, they did not spend a dime this offseason. They didn't do anything to make their team better except that aforementioned trade, a couple major fringy signings of guys who did not play last year. They finally actually just signed a player who did play in the big leagues last year. A guy named Tyler Alexander, who's like just a depth piece. I mean, he wasn't great last year or the year before. So like, I on paper, I do think they got worse for sure. Willie Adames is gone. The Cubs are better. No more Devin Williams, although I don't think that'll hurt them quite as badly. But again, they've shown time and time again, they know what it takes to outperform expectations and outperform what you think you're seeing on the field. So you have to give them at some point a little bit benefit of the doubt. Yeah. To me, I would go into this season thinking the same thing I thought last season. That's a 500 baseball team, probably a little north of that, and that's not good enough to make the playoffs. And when you set the standard that they have, which is competing or going to the playoffs really every season, I think that is a step back. And you mentioned it earlier, Greg, like at some point you have to win a playoff series. And I know that that's random and it's a small sample and it's, bad luck maybe, but when you have that many opportunities and you haven't broken through in, 7 years, 8 years, there has to be something that you can account for. You can't just throw up your hands and say, oh, dumb luck again, got us. Fans aren't going to be happy with that. Fans aren't going to be satisfied with just another like first round exit. So I don't see a team now that's like, this team is good enough to go beyond the first round, but also there's obviously a lot of things to be decided here in spring training. And then during the season, if they can tweak or you get somebody like Tobias Myers who comes out of nowhere and greatly contributes, I can't rule that out either.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels like the Brewers are notoriously tight-fisted when it comes to spending money. And who's that? It's like the Robin Voss of baseball, for heaven's sakes. It's my money and I'm not going to spend it. So bad, too bad, so sad, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is that they're just not, they excel. They are number one. They would win the World Series of not spending money.
Of frugality. And to be honest, they wouldn't, because a lot of teams are doing what they're doing, including the St. Louis Cardinals. They haven't done anything this offseason. They've been so chill. And so, because TV contracts are changing and maybe getting, teams aren't getting as much revenue that way than they used to be. I think there is a greater cost consciousness than there used to be, certainly in Milwaukee, but also other places. There are a lot of teams that did spend, like the Detroit Tigers or the Baltimore Orioles, teams that you'd like to think the Brewers would be, not directly competing with, but maybe financially competing with. Kansas City's payroll went up. So you'd like to think the Brewers would be swimming in those pools. They haven't been. They're not going dramatically down in payroll. So there's also that to consider. But yes, I certainly think there's more they could do. I certainly think they probably left some stuff on the table. I'm sure they either feel differently or the financial constraints are just what they are and they have to work with what they have. Again, that process has led them to success. So I guess at some point I trust you guys. I trust you guys. We'll see. And I might say I told you so, but you got to give them a little bit. You just can't discount their track record at this point.
We've only got about 90 seconds left, JR. I just real quickly from one of your colleagues, Michael Middlehurst Schwartz. It says Aaron Rodgers' turbulent run with the New York Jets is meeting an unceremonious end. Ha!
Truly sad, truly depressing. Pittsburgh Steelers could be an interesting spot for him. They had Russell Wilson this past year, former University of Wisconsin standout. He's probably not going to be there. So that's maybe there's a spot for him in the NFL, but I think it might be over. It might be over, Jane.
Read him in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. J.R. Radcliffe joins us every other Thursday. Thanks so much, JR. Really appreciate it. Take care. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
See you guys soon.
This shouldn't be a thing. On the way to wrap up the show, stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Calby on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up on the show tomorrow, we're going to be talking to Courage MKE, an LGBT plus organization in Milwaukee. Lots of things coming out of the Trump administration and a lot of concern among our friends in the LGBTQ plus community. So we're going to be talking to Courage MKE tomorrow morning at 10:33. I'm pretty sure, Greg, we will spend a little segment. Linda McMahon right now is sitting for her confirmation hearing to head up the Department of Education. And she does actually have some background in education. I did not realize that. But she said something this morning that I think is going to be of interest to parents in Wisconsin, essentially saying that charter and choice schools have every right to refuse kids who don't meet their standards.
Fine, then give the money back.
Yeah, I don't think she wants that.
Not too late. You don't want them. You don't get the money. That's how it works. Sorry.
Seems reasonable to me.
1, 2, 3. I win. You lose. That's how wrestling works.
Well, we're going to kick that around tomorrow as well. Next week, we have a jam-packed week for you. Luann Bird will be joining us. She is still involved in politics. She has lost her last 2 races. That's not keeping her down by any stretch of the imagination. And I all think we can be inspired by Ms. Bird, who's going to be joining us. Luann Bird, you're going to be joining us on Monday. Representative Mark Pocan will be here on Tuesday. Alex Lawson from Social Security Works is going to be joining us on Thursday to talk about potential changes to the Social Security system under a second Trump administration. So all kinds of things coming up for you next week as well. I hope you can join us. Right now, though, it's 11:54. Calvin, that means it's time for...
This shouldn't be a thing.
Today, this Tisbat from UPI.com. Headline reads with the byline from Ben Hooper, a possum eats entire Costco chocolate cake in Nebraska yard. An opossum treated at a Nebraska animal hospital after wandering into a family's backyard and gorging itself on an entire chocolate mousse cake from Costco. Kim Doggett says she put the cake on the picnic table in her backyard because they ran out of room in the fridge. She says, we always have a house full. We cook a lot. So when we run out of room in the fridge, we just stick it outside and put it on the picnic table. And I think a lot of folks in Wisconsin do that too.
Yeah. I get that. I understand that.
You assume it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
In this instance, however, her son had taken some fresh made peanut butter balls outside to cool. And there he found an opossum curled up on a chair, which was covered in chocolate paw prints. The cake had been knocked off the table, was sitting in front of the opossum. It was almost completely gone. The animal was not moving and appeared to be panting.
Oh.
She said the opossum looked a little distressed, so we called the Humane Society to get him checked out. She couldn't find anything online on whether or not chocolate is dangerous to opossums. So rather than take the chance, they contacted their local Humane Society. Nebraska Wildlife Rehab posted a photo of the animal along with this quote, a possum brought in due to having eaten an entire Costco chocolate cake. Everyone was posting that this possum is their spirit animal.
I mean, who hasn't been there? Who hasn't seen a cake on a picnic table and thought, you know what, I need to eat that whole thing. Now, granted, if I go to the doctor and I've eaten an entire cake, I'm not in danger. I just probably should also see a therapist as well, because that's not good behavior. So
veterinarians who treated the opossum with activated charcoal that was to neutralize any potential toxic elements from the chocolate. Unfortunately, the possum was also found to have a high level of lead, likely from eating local insects, but the opossum now is being treated for that. She's expected to be released in a few weeks. With some time in rehab, this chocoholic should be stabilized enough to return to the wild. Until then, she is definitely a little cranky about our strict zero chocolate policy. You gotta love a wildlife group with a sense of humor.
Yeah, right. And a possum was like, well, I still want my chocolate. I don't care if it makes me sick.
That wraps up today's episode of
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
Thank you, Greg and Calvin, and all of our engineers. Without you, nothing works. And thank you, most of all, for calling and for texting and for listening. It absolutely means the world. I hope you find some joy today and you have the chance to share it. Take it easy on the roads. Please be careful. We have more snow coming in tomorrow. And then through the weekend, we will recap that for you tomorrow as well. We have news coming up next, followed by Todd Alba, noon to 2, Maggie Dawn, 2 to 4, Dom Salvia, 4 to 6, and Night Lights with Pete Schwaba. Great way to unwind from 6 to 8 p.m. Keep it right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll see you tomorrow.